Now, there's nothing more delicious than a hot homemade bread straight out of the oven. Add some Rossa tomatoes, fresh rosemary, and clover feta to the mix, and you have yourself a winner, baby. And I'm very excited to get into it because you're creating one of my favorites, a focaccia.
Same here, and I think the one thing I love about it, we've themed these dishes around summer, meaning they're perfect to make in the house, but they're also great to take out on those picnics. So if you had a delayed Valentine's, you can definitely try these out this weekend.
I'm here for it. Jason, so show us how to make the most perfect focaccia. What goes into it?
So I'm so in my element today because bread is always such a versatile thing to have around the table. It can be a starter, it can even be turned into a main dish. You can even make bread for dessert, you know, add different sweet treats into it. But today, this is such a simple dough. You're going to start with your cake flour. We've got some dry yeast over here. We've got your sugar and then some salt. Now, remember, the trick to this, when starting your bread, you never want to put your salt directly on your yeast because that will just kill the yeast and it won't allow the dough to rise. So make sure they add it in separate parts of the bowl. And then what you're going to do is just make a little well.
Okay.
And then you've got your tepid water here, so not too hot because yeast is actually a living organism. So anything hotter than to the touch will just annihilate it, and then you'll just have a flat bread.
So you're looking for something a little lukewarm?
A little lukewarm, and that will be perfect. So you're going to make a little well over here, and then I always start with a little bit. And, you know, depending on what flour you've got, you might need a bit more or might need a bit less, but essentially, you just want to add enough water that it just starts to bring the dough together.
Ah, got you.
So start off with a little bit and then continue adding.
As you are just mixing all those ingredients together, we are making something quick, simple, but what I like about this recipe the most is that it's budget-friendly. Yeah. I believe you can make this for an entire party as everyone comes in, you know, they break a piece of the focaccia and they just chow down, and it's ideal.
It is ideal, and it's a very great, like you said, Jay, great party starter because you can have that at the table for people to snack on while you get the rest of the meal prepared, you know? And it also is so versatile because you can add so much to it. Like, for instance, we're adding a couple of different things to it today. We're going to be adding some olive oil, which is very signature with focaccia because you need that oiliness of it. It's got a nice crust and a nice soft center. We're going to be adding some tomatoes on the vine as well. These not only taste great, but they look great as well. And then some rosemary, and then topping it all off with our clover cheese here. We're going with the elite. We're going to be using the feta, which has got those herby flavors in there because we're going with the mixed herb flavor, meaning you don't even have to stress about adding additional herbs to the dough. You can actually get that flavor right from the cheese itself.
Stunning. And Dumi, I can also see that you decided with your Rossa tomatoes to leave the little stalks on top. That's such a cute touch.
It's such a cute touch and also looks even great. But I just want to touch on what you're doing now, Jay. I see that you're not even kneading it with your hand. You're using a spoon. Yeah.
With this bread, you actually don't even need to do the whole kneading process. You know, we don't have time for that sometimes at home. You know, we don't have the machinery sometimes. You know, I mean, I'm lucky enough to have a dough hook in my machine at home, but just stir it up for about 10 minutes with a wooden spoon. You're looking for a shaggy dough. Focaccia is a light, very quick and easy bread, so you don't want to overcomplicate it, right? You just want to give it a quick stir, mash it around in your bowl, and
voila.
And it's as simple as that.
Okay, because we are eliminating the kneading, and also if you do not have the equipment at home and the right tools to put this together, we're showing you a nice, easy way to kind of mix it all together. Now, Dumi, I heard you saying that when you tried this recipe at home, you didn't have the time or the strength to mix it up nicely. So you just went 1, 2, 1, 2, and you put it in. It also works like that.
It also works because the most important thing is just to make sure that the yeast gets activated, and then obviously as you do this, what you're doing is you're also activating the gluten in the bread. So as soon as you've done that, 1, 2, 3 knead, leave it, go attend to Bushokwa and whatever else he needs, come back. Probably by then it's come to this consistency where it's nicely risen. So that dough that Jay's just made needs to rise. Once that happens, you take it out, plop it onto your tray, give it another rise for about 20, 30 minutes, and then it gets to this point. I've just rubbed it with a bit of olive oil, and the reason for that, it also helps with that crust that we were talking about, but it also makes it easy for you because now this is the fun part where you go in with your fingers or your tips because you're making these indentations in there, and that's where the rest of our ingredients can go in. We're going in with our tomatoes. You see, they sit nicely. They basically get, you know, engulfed in all of this focaccia flavor.
It looks like a cradle.
It does, it does. And then we're going to crumble our clover feta cheese in there. And like I said, I love the fact that we're using this herb flavor. And the perfect thing about it as well is that it's got with Clover's 5-step crafting process, so you know you're getting quality. You're not just getting an ingredient that is substandard. It's something that is elite, something you can present to your guests and feel proud about it, you know?
Stunning. And also, Jay, we've seen that Dumi decided to add some extra flour just to add to the base of her baking tray.
With something like focaccia or your pizza crusts, you want to let that dough sit on something just to carry it in the oven, you know, to prevent it from burning, because sometimes you just want to give it that hot temperature. So having the flour, it prevents it from sticking, firstly. Very good, Palesa. But most importantly, it prevents it from burning. Flour is good. I also like to use semolina. It gives a bit more texture to your bread. So
what's semolina?
It's a kind of flour as well. It's a kind of flour that's used mostly for, especially for pizzas. You know what trick I use? I use maize meal. I put it at the base because that also helps you to move it easier out of the tray. So you can even try that as well.
And every household in South Africa, come on, are you even South African if you do not have maize meal at home? I keep bumping this water. Okay, so how much more do we need to do and put within this focaccia? I can just almost imagine adding some olives to the mix as well.
Well, you know what, Palesa? Again, spice it up at home, you know? We don't all have the luxury of being able to run to the supermarket all the time. So it's a nice base recipe to put whatever you like in.
Delicious. I've just paired it also with some olive oil, balsamic vinegar, and chef's kiss. To get this recipe, please head over to afternoonexpress.co.za.
Clover cheese is for those who love life, where everything falls into place and melts away our cares, adding joy and stretching our imagination. Elite quality, elite taste, elite texture.
Made with love by Clover.
On social media, this is what we want to find out from you. What's a summer staple that is always on the menu? Please use that hashtag Afternoon Express in all of your comments, and a little bit later on in the show, I'll be sitting down with my 2 chefs to find out what those answers were. Now, whoever said salad needs to be plain and unimaginative? When we come back, we're going to be spicing up a bowl of greens with delicious chicken and some creamy avocado.